nearest to the great when we are great in humility, said Rabindranath Tagore, and I quote. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Seema, and I welcome you all to another very brilliant episode on Great Principles. Joining me in conversation is my very modest educator of the day, Mr. KB Kumar. He is former vice president of vice president and senior vice president and network director of Shri Group of Institution Delhi, a very renowned institution, and I'm sure this institution doesn't require any further introduction from my end. And when we have a director of that institution, you can imagine the kind of discussion we are going to have today. I also want to inform you that Mr. KV Kumar is former national director of FIITJEE India. So, without any further delay, let's welcome this great man on our show. And today we are going to learn a lot what actual education is all about, what it's mean to shape lives, what it means to be very passionate and devoted to your field. And we very often get passionate educator like sir, please join us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for the welcome and thanks for the kind of introduction you gave. I don't know whether I really deserve it. Thank you. Let's.
Sir, I think I don't have a lot of words to talk about you because I'm totally in awe having someone like you sitting here and I interviewing that person. It's truly an honor for me, rather. So, sir, I would really want you to tell little about your former years, about what kind of work you've been doing to our audience so that, they have a more clear picture about whom they are hearing today.
Well, I would call myself a student. That's probably that I would fit in very well there. I have been a learner and I will continue to be a learner until my very end. Well, I got fascinated by education long ago, but then I had my own reservations about it. As a young person, I was a little unconventional, and I stumbled upon two things, two career alternatives. One was a power-centric career, and the other was education. The power-centric one, I was keen on because I really wanted to tell the world that power does not corrupt. And that is the best, humble instrument to transition society. But then education was a luring thing for me. Unfortunately, I had lots of reservations about education because even in those days, education had its own, negatives and positives quite a bit. And I thought probably that is the reason why I should get into it. Still, I was not convinced. And it was then that Vivekananda came to my rescue with his most potent, powerful words. Education is the panacea for all social ills. And that had a tremendous impact on me, very deep impact on me. And thereafter, I happened to study Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and Albert Einstein had a wonderful impact on me. Now, I should say I was lucky enough to know many people who had worked with Mahatma Gandhi and Tagore. Very lucky indeed. So the conversations I had with them brought me very close to Mahatma Gandhi, Tagore, and later on, Albert Einstein had always been a very inspiring person as far as my educational thoughts are concerned. And later on, I got to know more about Jiddu Krishnamurti. So all these people had different viewpoints, but then I felt it was a great thing to amalgamate all of them and probably think about education as just one large effort that needs to be made in order to transition society. Please.
Certainly, sir. So, education is the only thing which can not only, give us the literacy skills or make us literate. There is a difference between you call a person educated and you call a person literate. So, the thing is that our structure of education is very much focused on just literacy skills. We don't talk much about providing the real education. So, if I ask you, you have been working with such great personality and such great people have an impact on you and their philosophies stand true even today after centuries. So what is real education according to you?
Well, it's a very baffling question again. Um, you see, a human brain is probably the most potent machine that we would ever see. It has 86 billion neurons and 1,000 trillion synaptic connections. Now, with this kind of structure, I don't think there will be any piece of technology that is better equipped than the human brain. But unfortunately, we are using only 3% of it, 2 to 3% of it. And they say Albert Einstein used 6%, but that was a dyslexic brain, fortunately or unfortunately. So by utilizing 4% of the brain, I sometimes tell my children, you will be able to outshine Albert Einstein. Now, this is on the one hand. The other hand, we are stressing on the left brain too much. I mean, this is a talk people have been engaged in for quite some time now. But then we have to look at it, deeply. We are promoting left brain all the time. We have reached dizzy heights as far as technological advancement is concerned, scientific research is concerned, general education is concerned. But then dizzy heights also comes with the risk of a huge fall. So we have to be guarding against that as well. Now, education primarily in the country and practically everywhere been focusing more on uh, technological advancement, more on rote learned information, particularly in countries like India. And we were focusing much less on emotional factors. So I often say head should go high, high, and again high. It should go to the top position possible. But then the heart, it should also have the humility to come down and wet the heart. So, the head heart combination is what makes education education. Now, we quite often forget it. So, is there a way we can address it? Is a question we have to constantly engage ourselves with. So, fundamentally, we need to look at education as driving originality, skills, emotional maturity, acceptance of people. I mean, this is not being given the right emphasis in our education system. So there should be a whole lot of revamping there so that the left brain and the right brain would become a harmonious blend. So this is, and whatever is possible there, we have to do. And I'm talking about with lots of specific plans of action very clearly in my mind.
Certainly, sir. I completely agree with you that yes, specifically in India, we are very much focused on just one part of the brain and we don't even think about it. But you have seen, the economy from industrial economy to information economy. And with this
Hmm.
kind of robotic kind of education, we cannot
Hmm.
thrive. And the youth who is going to work forward is sitting in the classrooms now. So, what would be the immediate changes recommended by you in our schools today?
So we have to realize that we are making human beings an endangered species. Now, with all what we're doing, where are we heading to? This is a thought that should come into our mind. Otherwise, very soon we will find the dead end of humanity. The human beings and the human race will have to reboot with a new operating system. Now, it is true that the young generation is focused on this, but at the same time, they are also open to new things. So there is a way we can probably influence them to look at the world, look at the entire, operational environment uh, in a much larger way. They have to start with the end in mind. Now, if you don't look at the end in mind before you start, then probably all these difficulties would happen. Let us look at, I said at the start itself, education is essentially a tool that can bring about changes. It is a panacea for all social ills. Then why do we have wars? Why do we have environmental degradation to this extent? Why are we concerned about food? Why are we concerned about all kinds of difficulties in this world if education has been doing well? Now, it is our responsibility to make the young generation aware as to what is happening, so that they find ways. They are capable of doing that, especially when they are using only 3% of their brain power. I think it is not beyond them to do it, but we have to let them free. We have to make them think. In order to make them think, we have to free them. Now, there is what I usually call this, um, you know, uh, uh, mindset. There is a mindset that the society has given us, and we are into it. We cannot come out of it. So it's a mindset trap. We are into this trap, and so long as we are into the trap, we will not be able to look outside. So we have to empower kids to come out of the kind of educational chains that we have put around them, so that they can think differently, utilize more of their brain power, and then come out with solutions. It is certainly not possible, is what I feel.
So
I
you
mean,
have
it is
given us
certainly not impossible, is what I feel.
impossible, yes. So you have given us food for thought. You have left us with so many open ends now that this all can be done, provided are we willing to. As you said, we all are burdened by societal pressures in every field actually. Whatever we want to do, we are thinking, log kya kahenge, and aisa hota hai kya? This is not the right thing, and why
Mm,
my students should focus on doing this thing when everyone in the society is running behind a certain thing. I should also focus on that because as humans, we all
yes.
follow the league, right? So, to all my dear viewers,
Yeah.
humanity is something which is going to save us, save everyone on the planet. And without this, certainly the existing is not possible. We have seen past 2 years of COVID how we all desperately needed support of each other when everything we were helpless completely. So, this
Yes.
is just was one scenario. What all is going to come, we are unaware. So, let us prepare together to stand together, and what may come, fight it and stand
No,
true
no.
to it. So this is, yes, sir, please.
This is another important thing. You have brought up this indirectly, the issue of competition. This is one of the greatest viruses that we have. Competition is turned outward into others. It has to turn inward into oneself so that he excels. Instead of competition, can we have collaboration? Can we have cooperation? And then can we look at ourselves and see how best we can come, how best we can compete with ourselves? Now, this is something we have to, inspire the new generation with. Things will be quite all right then. But we constantly look at the way of putting ourselves a cut above by even pulling the others down. So this is not going to take us anywhere. So there is a whole lot of change that needs to happen because of this.
Certainly
Please.
so. And very rightly said that one cannot learn everything, and collaboration is the key. Today, the world is open. We are connected virtually to the entire globe. And when we utilize each other's skills better rather than just showcasing what we have, that is when we all can truly succeed. To all my dear viewers, very rightly sir said, rather than competing, focus on collaborating. And collaboration is the key. This is what we're hearing every day. So why not bring it into practice? So moving ahead to my next question, sir. So you have immense experience, you have great thought process of building a generation, but I'm sure your work must have received a lot of accolades and appreciation and awards. But sometime a thank you coming from a true heart is what that is all what is needed. So tell me, sir, which is your best achievement as an educator that makes you feel proud?
Well, again, it's a question I love. Uh, I should put it this way: my award is when that little kid, the innocent little one, runs up to me, smiles, picks up a conversation with me innocently, and then starts at it. Now, let me be very honest with that. This is my greatest award. Now, I must have probably got national awards for certain institutions, but they all belong to these kids and the people who work with me. So I'm not much bothered about it. And I should also tell you what I meant by this, by giving one or two examples. This happened outside India. One night when I was about to sleep, there was a knock at the door. Probably the calling bell was not working. So I thought, who is this at this point of time? It's almost 1 o'clock. I opened the door, and it's a very cold area. Opened the door to find about 10 to 15 young men standing there with sticks and all kinds of, fighting things, tools, and whatever it is, whatever they had around. So then they said, sir, could we come in? I said, yes, please do come in. I knew they were not coming to hit me in any case. Then they said, sir, we are going to hit XYZ, sir. And we thought we should have your permission. Look at that. Now, my goodness, what am I hearing? My permission to hit a teacher? So I said, why don't you sit down? And then spoke to them for about 5 minutes. I didn't tell them, don't hit. I didn't tell them, hit. I just had a little interaction with them, just for about 5 minutes, and let them go. And I found them much more peaceful when they went. This XYZ really deserved it. I know that very well. But then it was not for these kids to do it. Now, what happened the next morning was an eye opener. They went to the teacher. He was actually the vice principal of the institution. He went to him and apologized for having thought about this, for having entertained this thought. This is my award, please. Now, I think I should also tell you about another one. I can give you n number of them.
Yes, sir.
In one institution, the teachers had lots of problems with some kids. So I spoke to them. They were giving a whole lot of issues to the teachers. So I spoke to them and told them this is how it has to be, very politely, very nicely. And then I told them, you see, habit is a habit. You can't immediately flush it out. So next time, when you do the same thing, do one thing. If you can't tell the teacher, excuse yourself, come and tell me. I was a principal at that point. Do you know how many children came to me? Excusing themselves to the class, they would rush to me and said, sir, unknowingly we did that. And that confidence that they placed in me made me an educator. And this is my greatest reward. And whatever else I gained, of course, there may be a few things, some national awards here, some national awards there. They all belong to these kids and the teachers who work with me. I don't have any claims over it. Of course, I've been also working on certain innovations and new ways of teaching and administering. Quite a lot of them, in fact. I have never been, promoting these. I think in some schools, some of them are there. Say, for example, the pie chart, learning pie chart, learning style pie chart. That has gone from me. It's being used in many, many schools across the country today, I feel. But there are quite a few of them. This is a very small one, but some of them are very, very deep. I probably would like someone to take a deeper look at it and make it more, popular. I mean, I'm not very particular, but if it is of any value, I'd be happy to share whatever little I know.
Certainly, sir. So, as I mentioned, that we have a very modest educator joining us today. So, here we, after hearing this answer of his, I'm sure you all will agree with me that yes, he is that one. And I think, so, you really brought up one very important advice for our dear parents and teachers, that communication is the key. When you can communicate well and connect with the student, you can certainly guide them to follow the right path. And I think that is what is the duty of we as parents and you as educators. We together can shape the child, or because these days people don't communicate, they don't talk, they don't share, they don't have time to sit and talk about what is happening in the life of a child. They are not involved. So I think this is where
Absolutely.
the problem lies. And the incident which you narrated, each incident had talking to them clearly about what is right. Now the child decides whether I'm doing right or wrong. And when he does that, we have changed the child forever, because this is education all about. Guide the child to distinguish between right from
Absolutely.
wrong.
Absolutely.
So
But at the same time, we need to follow it up with action. If we say something and do something else, it is never going to work. So that
that's
also has to be kept in mind, I feel. Yes.
children are very smart, and they are keen observers. So yes, we have to
Yes.
practice what we preach. So yes, that is certainly very, very important. So these are the two takeaways, lovely takeaways: that communicate well, teach right, wrong to the child, teach right, what is right, let the child take up the decision, and then you can see the changes happening. And don't forget to practice what you preach. That is what is needed today. So wonderfully answered, sir. There was a lot of learning from this answers of yours. Now we have reached to a very interesting segment of the show, which is called the rapid fire round. So you have to answer me in one word, or a sentence would do.
Hmm. Hmm.
One thing about you which many people would not know.
Well, I'm well into aesthetic arts. Most people wouldn't know about it.
Wonderful.
Like,
All right.
you know,
Uh,
I started off with visual arts. I'm into music, I'm into dance. Yes, at least I
Wow. So we
appreciate
have.
these very well. I play the mridangam, I play the kadam, I play a little bit of violin. Yes.
I'm sure many people certainly wouldn't know this because this side of yours is completely different for us. Coming to this now,
But I
so
should
now
tell
we are
you
seeing.
something. Shall I add a word there?
Sure, sure,
In
sure,
my
sir.
in my years of experience, I have found that people who are into aesthetic arts are the ones who can actually be groomed into good educators. In my 30 years of experience, I think this is something that stands out. People who
Certainly.
are aesthetically inclined can understand, probably because the right brain is working better in them. That could be the reason. Okay, please.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
I completely agree. And, I even think that we should train our children also for the same because, it somewhere connects them to a different world. They understand themselves also better. So, we should also focus on ensuring that our children are into some kind of aesthetic art. So, this would certainly help them to learn better and be a learner. So,
But,
even when I was
but
small, my parents were inclined. Yeah,
all
please.
schools provide these days, especially the good ones,
Yes,
so-called
yes.
high-end ones, definitely do that. But the point is there a way they can approach education through these doors? These doors
Certainly.
and windows. That is something people have not been exploring enough. Please.
Yeah, so so we got a clue here also from Sir that education is into everything. And now that we are talking about design thinking and everything, so we are supposed to be more creative while educating our children and find more ways so that learning should happen in a manner it should. They should enjoy learning. So moving ahead to my next
Absolutely.
question.
Yeah.
Moving ahead to my next question.
Please.
What you love to do when you're not working or when you're not teaching?
Well, think deeply about educational programs, how things could be improved. Second, again, I go back to my music and dance. Uh, you know, so I'm not a dancer. I don't want to be called a musician. I appreciate it, but I always get back to these whenever I'm not doing anything else. One is educational thought that fills me. Second is aesthetic arts.
Wonderful. Moving ahead to my next question. As a child, you fancied sketch and colors. Is it true?
Yes.
So, are you an artist
Also,
now?
yes, I used to paint, I used to draw, but not anymore. If I probably do that now, people will disown me immediately. The same is the case with the music. But that doesn't
Coming.
mean you still don't love it, you don't appreciate it. That's all. But I have been, in fact, guiding quite a lot of artists, great ones in that, indeed. I had lots
Wow.
of musicians, great musicians, uh, you know, uh, artists in my team, dancers in my team. And I use all these in order to develop curriculum. In fact, I have done a lot of curriculum work as well with exceptionally brilliant teams.
Wow. So, sir, tell me one thing. Why should, why many people, I think even you, when you used to love sketching and coloring, why did you left it? Why shouldn't we find time to always pursue our
Well,
passion and
well,
hobbies?
up to I think I had my last piece when I was doing my 11th standard, and none of them has survived. I hope maybe except one Gandhi that I did with charcoal. It's still somewhere, but I lost everything else. Now, one very clear thing is my father was always supportive. My mother was supportive. But at the same time, in those days, it was not easy for people to kind of stick to that. So I also, otherwise, if it were today, I would be probably looking at music and then, you know, uh, visual art.
Moving ahead to my next question. A piece of advice for a dear parents.
See, every child is a genius. If you know how to bring out that genius in him or her, I think we'll succeed. And quite often we conclude that our children cannot do much. We don't know them. This and same thing happened with Albert Einstein. Just look at that. And I know one child here in Kerala now. I would be mostly meeting her. I mean him basically. Very small child. He can't speak. He can't write. But the kind of things he otherwise does with the help of computer is going to capture the attention of the whole world. Whole world. He's going to be a great genius. Now there is another very important thing I would like to tell. You see, we have many children who have difficulties, learning difficulties. But look at the kind of contribution that people who had learning difficulties made to the world, including Abraham Lincoln, Albert Einstein. How many of them? How many of them? Why is it happening that way? I would say the pressure on them from the society was a little less. Society could not place enough pressure. So they could think differently. In spite of their brain being this, they were able to bring out much more and contribute to the world. So let them alone and things would happen. I used to say, those schools which sent Albert Einstein, for example, out of the school did a great thing. Otherwise, we would miss Albert Einstein and all those great people. So, we have to probably look at education from a totally different standpoint, and the parents should be with us. Now, most of the schools which would like to really do something are not getting the support of the parents. This is another very, very sad thing. So, the parents should realize that it is not just, putting a child into a mold, but allowing him to come out of the mold that we have created for him. That is to be done. Thank you for that
Completely
question.
agree with you, sir. Completely agree with you, sir. I've heard this many times that we want to do a lot of things, but our parents want it as per the market standards. So this market standard word, I don't know from where
Yes,
did it came in, and people are have these expectations even from the
yes,
schools
yes,
that this is what is done, and now they become educators and decided this is how I want you to educate my child. Do it in this manner. So this approach is
yes.
wrong. So we need to, if we want our children to be exceptional, we need to allow them the freedom as sir mentioned. So moving ahead to my next question, sir, what should be ideal school hours?
Ideal school hours. No,
Yeah.
I didn't get you clearly.
What should be ideal school hours? There are schools, those who function for day school, few
Well,
function just for few
today
hours.
hours have no meaning. I would always like to see children in a residential setting. I mean, I'm just probably moving out of your question slightly, but in a
Mhm.
residential setting, you are not going to parcel times. I mean, the time into this and that and compartmentalize to such an extent that the children cannot live. So, their education is basically, or teaching is basically creating the right context. A teacher, I used to say, is the right context creator. Now, if you create the right context and leave it in front of the kids will absorb and assimilate. They will do everything there. So the best context creator is the best teacher. Now, if that is the case, don't you think we can have the children learning anytime, anywhere? One. Now, secondly, if you when you have the pressure of formal education, of course, we have to think in terms of structures. I'm not against that. I'm not saying, but don't conclude that these structures are going to educate the children. If you actually say, okay, 10 to 9, I used to say most schools are at 10 to 4 even you know so unfortunately we have to probably let the children free now. If you take the example of the pressure of the textbooks, many people including the schools take the textbooks as everything. That textbook is not the be all and end all of education, not even the starting, right? It's only a tool to transition children, so it can be seen at the most as a means, nothing more than that. And how about degrees? So we have to look at it from that angle and then create the right kind of educational environment for children. But then at the same time, you can have, some structured time, no doubt, depending on the schools and the teachers and the children. Now, anyway, with online learning happening, things have changed quite a bit.
Certainly.
I don't
So
know whether I have
everyone
answered you.
is. So certainly you have. So I understood that it's a good idea to have your children at least, stay in residential school for a few years of their life. It would certainly help them to, think more independently and become more independent and take owners of their decisions and learning also. And once the child has taken that, you have won everything, because that is when child start becoming curious and start learning on his own. And our job is done. We want our children to be learner, right? So moving ahead to my next question in this segment, is it important and necessary to learn all the subjects?
See, what are subjects after all? See, all these are the kind of, you know, what do you call it, traps we have got into. Look at the NCERT syllabus. How many subjects are being prescribed for the small kids, and how many do we teach? I remember having come across a school which is teaching nearly 13 different books to the small little kid in grade one, when NCERT does not talk about more than two. So what are we doing? Why do we do it this way? Because we have come to believe certain things, taking certain lessons from somewhere. We have not digested it. And we think all these books are going to do the kind of education that we want to give them. This is where we are going completely, unimaginative. Very sad to say this. So,
But sir, a student of today has started questioning. When I teach my daughter, she asks me, "Do you think is it even important for me to do learn all this? Information is there. I don't need not need this information."
absolutely,
So
absolutely, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. The with all those neurons and synaptic connections, we can easily have several huge libraries in the world into our head, into our brain. But why do we need them? We should
absolutely.
make children capable of solving problems, becoming creative, originating new ideas, sorting problems out, seeing the people in a better light, meaning connecting with them, looking at the world as one large family. You see, how many of us actually think about the other, animals on the planet? We are the most evolved, we say. Are we really evolved? The only human beings can go against the will of nature. No other animal can. And these animals support us, sustain us on earth. But do we do that? So I think it is very important that the children actually go out of the tangles of this, a structured way of learning books, and look at the world around and see what needs to be learned and see what needs to be done. That is more important.
Absolutely, sir. Completely agree with you. So these are the skills which we need to hone in our children: creative thinking, problem solving. So these are the things which you should talk about. So moving ahead to the last question of the show, which is called viewers' choice question. Okay, so they have the question on NLP, and sir is a certified NLP practitioner also. So NLP is language processing. So sir, tell us something about what exactly NLP is, and do you think that the integration of NLP in curriculum is going to benefit schoolgoers? So if
I
in
don't
my
know why
layman,
NLP. Yeah, I don't
if
know
my
why
lay,
NLP alone should be brought up, but of course, yes. Now that you have asked me about NLP, let me tell you something about NLP and the kind of support NLP has given me all the time. See, I don't know whether you are aware that NLP talks about eye movement, the pupillary movement. And I picked it up only from NLP, and then I started developing it. In fact, I have developed it to a considerable extent today that I can just by looking at a child say what kind of learner he is and how he can possibly learn, and whether he is a kinesthetic learner. I mean, you see, I have divided kinesthetism into two, kinesthetic intelligence into two. One is the physically oriented kinesthetic intelligence, like what you see in sports people, athletes, and then the other is what you have in the dancers, dramatists, and all those. So there is a huge difference between the two. Now, I would be able to say by looking at the person, observing that person and his eye movement for a short time, where he actually belongs. It's not my greatness. What I'm trying to present here is we have to take it to the next level. A lot more of research needs to be done here. Now, NLP gives us a whole lot of other ideas as well, but this is one thing I have developed, quite a bit, in fact.
so what are your
Would you
thoughts
like me
of
to? Yeah.
Yeah, sir. We would like to learn a little more on NLP and how it would benefit for schoolgoers, sir. So how
See,
we can
NLP,
integrate it.
NLP, you see that NLP has different aspects. I was only taking one of them, which is going to be of tremendous value to us. NLP can help students in multiple ways. One, it is basically, one thing which is immediately relevant is the visual, auditory, kinesthetic learning system. This is very clearly mentioned in NLP. So we can possibly take lessons from them and incorporate that into our regular curriculum delivery. There are lots of other things that have been done, but then I have taken one aspect of that, that is the pupillary movement, to a different level. I learned quite a lot from that. I started doing this almost from 1911. I have been doing it from 2011. And I have come to a stage where I can possibly help people to do further research on it and come out with specifically useful outcomes. So NLP definitely is going to help us in multiple ways. I think I've given two or three of them. One, these neuro-linguistic programming, that's what NLP basically
Yes.
expands into. It is essentially the visual, auditory, kinesthetic learners and their ways. That is something that we can definitely make use of. And at the same time, there are certain sounds that they pick up. For example, well, when you converse, when you talk to people, they pick up certain words and decide as to whether you are a visual learner, kinesthetic learner. I don't believe in that. There it usually goes wrong because you also speak the way you have heard others speak. So you won't be able to take clues from those words and then say, okay, he's a learner of this variety and not a learner of that variety. So that is taking things to the other extreme. But otherwise, neuro-linguistic program has many uses in education.
Absolutely, sir. So, hearing today to use KB, sir, I really look forward to an awakened generation. And I'm sure the kind of thoughts you have been, and every time you keep about thinking about education and improvement in it, we can be, ready to accept that we have to experience to in order to experience the life fully, abundantly, we have to offer improve intelligence and skills to our children. So that was the take for me from today's conversation, that in order to give a right kind of a life to my children, I really need to focus on this. So today I got to know a completely different perspective of education, that it's not structured, it's not compartmentalized, and it is when a child is free to learn, and we just need to be facilitator here. So sir, what would be the ending note from you to awaken the generation?
Look at children, as I told you earlier, as geniuses. Every child is a genius. And don't ever imagine that your child is not an Einstein, not an Abraham Lincoln, not a Mahatma Gandhi. We conclude, this should go. And we should know that if 97% of the brain is not working, then there is a huge possibility that can unfold. So let us look forward to that. Let us create the right kind of mental space to accommodate the possibilities of kids and then move forward.
Absolutely, sir. And I'm really happy that a lot of talks are happening. Government is doing their bit with NEP coming in, and a lot of changes happening at school level also. Parents have also changed a lot. They're thinking about different career options for the children. It's not only about academics, doctor, engineer,
Mm.
CA types. There are a lot more options available today, and even children are very well with the information they get. They are so certain that they what they want. It was not like it was in my days. I was not aware what I want to do when I grow up. But today, children are much more focused. They know what they want. It's all in us as educators and parents to support them and stand by their side strong and guide them only. So, we are really hoping for a better education system and for a better generation, which is much more human. So, thank you so much, sir, for your time with us. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, though this short span is not enough, because the experience that you have, the kind of thought that you have, we really need to unveil much more about you, but we have time constraint. So see you again, sir, very soon on a short series also. We'll be having a lot of value addition there too. Thank you so much for your time with us, and I'm sure that wise words of yours should resonate with the world also. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot indeed. Thanks for this opportunity. And I look forward to greater things happening in the field of education. Thank you.